If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson cries for every dime.
Welcome to Simply the Law, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Simply the Law provides free legal advice and encourages happiness and quality of life. Now, here's Simply the Law with Gary C. Johnson. Hello, everyone. Welcome into Simply Life. I'm Keith Casebolt. My friend and I are smiling because we are enjoying life. So thank you for tuning in to Simply the Law, and say hello to Gary Johnson.
Did you notice that he started off saying, welcome to Simply Life?
Oh,
He's changed the name of my program.
I'm sorry. Well, listen, the last time we were together, we talked so much about life and everything. I said we're talking life. That's the radio program. This is Simply the Law. Yeah, but we're still having a good time with life.
And it is more probably Simply Life than it is Simply the Law. Sometimes I talk a little bit about the law, but I thoroughly enjoy talking to my friends about life. And maybe I can talk you into being a little bit happy. Maybe I can talk you into being a little better to each other. Maybe I can talk you into being a little more considerate of each other. Maybe I can talk you tonight into looking over and saying, thank you for being here with me. Say it twice, just in case I didn't hear it the first time. Maybe I can teach you the 24-hour rule, and maybe life will be well worth living. Maybe I can get you to watch the reality show of people because of all the things you now know that you can use to do that. And just maybe at the end, when they go to your funeral, which someday that'll happen, they can say, boy, did he or she live it to the fullest. They enjoyed life. They were happy. We are so going to miss them because they would light up the room when they came in because they were smiling and they were happy. And if they say that about each and every one of you, because it's all right here, my friends.
You know, okay? You just made me think of something. Last week, you talked about the book, and you talked about the passage of joy and sorrow, about your grieving and your joy counterbalance each other. You can't have one without the other. When you just opened this statement up, you just made me think, what a bad deal it's going to be if you pass away and nobody's grieving. If nobody's grieving, that means you didn't bring any joy to anybody.
That's right. So you want lots of people grieving. You want them grieving because of the joy you brought to their lives. It is so easy, my friends, to get caught up in the petty things of life that don't matter. The people around you right now, if you knew they had one more day to live, would you treat them exactly the same way you're treating them right now? Would you harbor the grudges and the slights and those things that you may be feeling right now if you thought that person was only going to be in your life one more day? You should live life that way because nobody has any promises of tomorrow, and you don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow, and you don't know if your loved ones and the people around you are going to be here tomorrow. So you should treat them as though this may be our last day together.
Gary, that's profound, and I mean that makes you want to stop and think, because just in my head right now I'm thinking of several people that said, if I had only known that would have been the last time that I saw this individual, or the last time that I spoke with them, I would have said or done this. And you're saying we should treat every encounter as if though it's the last time we'll do it.
Okay, you know how things pop in my head, folks. Here, one just popped in. There's someone watching this show right now that is estranged from someone you used to be close to. Make amends. Call them up. Go see them. Make amends while you're alive and can still do it. And you're saying, but. No, I'm saying make amends. You will be happier for it. The grudge will be gone. Whatever slight they did it. You have to remember, when people do things, every one of you, you don't do anything that you don't think you should do at the time. If you think you should do it, you'll do it. If you think you shouldn't do it, you won't do it. So when you start getting mad and having grudges, the person that did whatever it is that made you be estranged, they did it at the time thinking it's what they should do. Your job is to figure out, well, what made them come to that conclusion that they felt like that they should do that. Now that's the hard thing to do. Then you have to look inside of you. What did I say? What did I do? How did it lead up to that? All kinds of things, none of which matter. Because you're just going to live this little old bitty dash, and then we're going to die. And the question is how do we live the dash? And whether or not we're happy and content and peaceful and at peace with ourselves and those around us during the time we live on this earth. That's the question. And all this petty stuff, it means nothing.
Now,
I cannot emphasize that enough to my friends.
I want to tell our friends what a great life lesson. I had a little spat going at one time, and I told Gary about it, and Gary said, well, call up and apologize. And I did the but. I said, but it's not my fault. And Gary said, so what's that matter? Call up and apologize anyway. You'll feel better and you'll be free, and then it won't be on your shoulders anymore. And I did what you told me to do.
And it didn't matter whether it was your fault or not, Keith, because the person that was involved with you perceived it, being different than you, as your fault.
Well, and guess what? After I called up and said I apologize and thought more about it, maybe I did have some to blame. You know, maybe I was wrong. Maybe some of it was my fault. But you had to get that emotion out of it to look at it. And you just frankly looked at me and said, apologize. Whether you're wrong or right, it doesn't matter. Do it and you'll feel better. And I felt better.
Well, let's take a break. We'll come right back.
Well, I said simply life. It's actually simply the law. But as you can see, we're talking about life, and the whole purpose about the program is to make sure that yours is happier. Stay with us. Gary C. Johnson is coming back right after this break.
Who really knows which lawyer you should choose? Other lawyers know. They've invited Gary C. Johnson to teach his method of judo law in Denver, Atlanta, New Orleans, and across the nation. Gary used judo law to set the record for the largest personal injury verdict in the history of Kentucky. Now, which lawyer should you choose? The choice is clear. Gary C. Johnson. Dial #HURT. This is an advertisement.
Welcome back into Simply the Law. I love the opening segment, and I know there's a lot of people going, you should never apologize if you're not wrong. I want to point something back out again that Gary has showed me. There's a good possibility you could be wrong because you've entered into that argument, you've taken a side, it's emotional, and unless you can step back from it, you probably can't see where you had a part to play in it.
Well, I'll repeat something I've said on the program probably several times before. You should never, ever fight a principle battle. And there's a really good reason why you shouldn't. You may be wrong. Yeah. I learned that when I was in Berea College 50 years ago. Think about that. I fought a principle battle, and guess what? I was wrong. And I said to myself, learn from your stupid mistakes you do, Gary. I've never fought a principle battle since then, and I never will again.
And Gary, is that the hard part of it? When you find out you were wrong, now you've got to dig in because, I mean, now you've got to protect your pride that you can't come back and admit you were wrong, and you've got to try to make excuses for it. It even goes harder.
Well, you put yourself in an awkward position. of being the fool you might have been at the time, which is exactly what I was. But that's hindsight. You can't. The only time you're ever supposed to look back, which I'll show you in a minute, is to try to learn from the mistakes you made. Let's go to the computer. I want to share some things with you. There's a number in case any of you need to reach us. We're in Lexington now, so our friends, and we see quite a few of our friends in Lexington anymore. GaryCJohnson.com in general. Please make sure you have underinsurance that protects you and your family on your insurance policy.
Can we speak? Okay, go ahead.
This is a little book that I picked up the other day. It's called Cornerstones of Success by a fellow by the name of Patrick Caton. There's nothing original in it by him. It's just quotations from other successful people. And I want to share some of those with my friends because they are interesting. First one, Abraham Lincoln. I do the very best I know how, the very best I can, and I mean to keep on doing so until the end. Now, isn't that profound, Keith? Abraham Lincoln.
Profound from a man who changed the history of the United States and was probably put in one of the toughest situations any human being could be in.
And got killed for it.
Gave up his life for it, yes.
And that was his philosophy on life. So, folks, let's go back. There's another one I want to talk to you about on this. Harry Truman, what did he have to say? Whenever a man does the best he can, then that's all he can do. Remember when I've said to you folks, you have to do what you do. You cannot judge what you do based upon what someone else has done. Harry Truman had a sense enough to know this. What did he say? Whenever a man does the best he can do, that's all he can do. And it's the same thing with you folks.
But Gary, isn't this putting some accountability upon us as individuals? Because deep down, we know if we gave it a good effort. Deep down, we know if we did the best we could do. We've got to be truthful with ourselves and say, you know, I slacked off or I gave it the best effort. But once we've given it all we can do, then you should be okay with it.
You will believe your own rationalizations faster than anyone else. And as human beings, we can just about rationalize anything, can't we? And we may pretend we're doing our best when we know deep down we're not, but we will rationalize and say, but what if that person, if this hadn't happened, if all the circumstances of life come boom down on us, and therefore we couldn't do or get it done, right?
Yeah, I told Gary one time, I said, Gary, I've made this mistake and I'm never going to be able to forgive myself. And he laughed and said, oh, you'll figure out a way to forgive yourself. You'll get over it. And sure enough, within a day or two, I was like, you know, maybe it wasn't all my fault, you know.
Oh, yes, yes.
So I started forgiving myself, but you're right about that.
That comes from just being a human being. As I've said so many times on this program, you're human. You know, I hope the people around you aren't expecting you to be more than that. And I really hope you aren't expecting anyone around you to be more than a human being. I hope, my friends, that you aren't judging anyone any more harshly than you would judge yourself, right? And if you make that as a criteria, you're probably not going to judge anyone because you're not going to judge yourself very harshly, right? In its nature, we can't. We just can't.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to computer. I got another 2 or 3 of those things I want to share with you on success. George Washington Carver. How far you go in life depends on your being tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, sympathetic with the weak and strong. Someday you will be all of these.
You know what I love about this? Now, you just had President Lincoln, Truman, and now George Washington Carver, and all of these men are giving profound statements about being human. Mm-hmm. Just what you just said.
Just being human. And they probably also understood something that took me so long to figure out is how different we are inside, just like we're different outside. And I say it to you again, I'm going to say it a lot on these programs. When the good Lord, He made you unique, physically and mentally. And understanding that until, what the old Indians say, you can't understand a person's what they're doing unless you've been in their moccasins. It's the truth. They are different. Each and every one of us is different, inside and out. So quit judging people, folks. Their perception may be entirely different than yours. Respect it, just like you would hope they would respect yours. Okay, let's take a break, and we'll come right back.
Yeah, and the other thing that I guess Gary pointed out in that, their perception may be right. Yours may be wrong. Only time will tell. Stay with us. Simply the Law with Gary C. Johnson comes back after you see this. Eastern Kentucky, southern West Virginia, and southwest Virginia. It can be a tough territory to reach when it comes to marketing. We can help. We can also help you find your identification. And we have plenty of services to do it and a lot of experience behind us, over 37 years. In fact, we've either booked or sold nearly $70 million in advertising in this region. You need a new voice, a new idea, a new concept? Casebold Marketing. We're ready to go to work for you today. Our motto is nothing happens until you make it happen. So let's get started today. Welcome back into Simply the Law. You know, out of that first two segments, I'm sitting here thinking, what am I taking away from this? Whether it's President Lincoln, George Washington Carver, whoever it is, maybe someone that is your hero or you idolize. Gary, deep down, we're all the same. We have the same fears. We have the same human traits. We have the same worries. We have the same things we have to overcome. There is no difference.
But we're entirely different in how we deal with those.
Yes.
And that's the issue.
And maybe that's why those people you just talked about rose to the heights they did, because they understood it
Right.
and could deal with it better than most.
Right. Okay, let's go back to computer, my friends. E.W. Elmore, don't know who that is. It's not half as important to burn the midnight oil as it is to be awake in the daytime. Boy, isn't that the truth. Beverly Sills, you may be disappointed if you fail, but you are doomed if you don't try. Now that is the truth, Keith. Right
You know,
there.
that falls into the fear factor, and that's another thing I didn't realize until I started doing these programs with you. When people use the words, I could have if I wanted to, had I tried, I could have been. You know, I never did understand those meanings until you told me, Keith, that's how you're representing fear. Because you were afraid of failure, you used that terminology.
Well, we rationalize everything basically to stay sane. You are sane, aren't you, folks? Huh?
Well,
I just kidding.
can I get back to you on that?
Well,
I don't want to answer right off
you
bat.
know, at least, you know, Keith and I are sane, and I get worried about him sometimes.
Absolutely.
The thing about living this life is you have all the people around you who are so different than you, yet they're so alike you in some ways. You may believe the same things, or one of you may be pretending to believe what the other one is saying to get along. Who knows? Because we don't know what's in other people's minds. We only know what's in ours. And that is the amazing thing about life. How do you learn to respect what's in this other person's mind, and how do you learn to respect their perception of what's going on around them versus what yours is? How do you learn to respect their sense of what's right and wrong
You know,
versus what yours is?
that's a great point. I had a conversation one time with a wealthy businessman that said, I just don't get it. I don't understand why everybody's not wealthy. That's exactly what you're saying. This individual may have been given mental ability or traits or things that's different, but not understanding that everyone else is different. They approach things differently. They see it differently. They understand it differently.
I don't know the friends that I've had over the years that judge the ability of other people, whether it was in athletics or intellect or what they could accomplish based upon themselves. And they would scorn those people that didn't achieve what they did without any perception in their mind that the good Lord made those people different than you. None.
I'm thinking about the time you invited me to the dance class. Listen, you're talking about 2 left feet. I mean, I tried. I couldn't do anything. I ended up standing over in the corner. It was hard. I mean, I never dreamed that it would be that hard to try to do.
Well, he could have done it if he would have.
No, that's an excuse.
He's excusing that excuse so he won't have to put any effort in.
No, that's an excuse. I'm like Clint Eastwood. A man's got to know his limitations, and mine stops when it comes trying to dance, I can tell you.
Let's take our last break, and then we'll be right back.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Simply the Law. I mean, Gary and I talk all the time. The fact that you would take time out to watch this program, to laugh a little bit with us, to learn a little bit about life and the law means a whole lot to the two of us. Stay with us. We'll be right back with the close of the program. This is Simply the Law with Gary C. Johnson.
People are asking, what is judo law? Judo is a martial art that uses the opponent's strength to defeat them by not opposing it directly. Gary C. Johnson created a method of practicing law based on that principle. It worked so well he named it judo law. To see the results, go to GaryCJohnson.com. To have Gary and his team of judo lawyers go to work for you, dial #HURT. This is an advertisement.
Welcome back into Simply the Law. Gary has got some quotes from famous people, and trust me, if you're going to take advice from the people that achieve things.
That's right. So let's go to the computer and look at some of those quotes from other people on what they think we ought to do. Howard Caton. Effort is a commitment to seeing a task through to the end, not just until you get tired of it. Oh, how many of us have fallen for that? Claude McDonald. If hard work is the key to success, most people would rather pick the lock. Now that is so true, isn't it, folks?
Yes, we don't want to hear the truth when it comes to hard work.
Ray Kroc, McDonald's guy, what do you have to say about success? Luck is a dividend of sweat. The more you sweat, the luckier you get. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, and you know what's amazing about that guy, if I have the information right, he was about 53, 54 years old when he reinvented himself and decided to get into the business. It was never too late for this individual to apply his skills to becoming a success.
Oh, by the way, if some of you are thinking about doing something, but you decided you may be too old, guess what? You're going to be the same age whether you do it or don't. The only difference is whether you did it. If you live, you'll be the same age whether you do it or not. So you're not too old. No matter what it is you're thinking about doing, go do it. Get the pleasure out of it. Get the knowledge out of it. Expand your horizons, my friend. Don't hesitate just because of age. Go do it. And don't use that as an excuse. I'm too old. If you live, you'll be the same age if you do it or you don't. Okay?
You and I have a friend that started to go back to law school in his mid to late 30s, and I asked him at the time, what are you doing? You're in your late 30s. Went to law school, became a lawyer, became a judge. All these years later, has retired as a judge. And had he listened to me, he wouldn't have gone back to law school.
Because he's too old.
Because he was too old. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, let's go back to computer. I got some more neat little quotes from people that I think we all should admire. Henry Ford, wise man. You can't build a reputation on what you're going to do.
That's good.
He's the one that had that saying that if you believe you can't do it and you believe you can do it, you're right.
Both ways.
Mark Twain, brilliant man. All you need in this life is ignorance and confidence, and then success is sure. And I'm telling you, folks, that's probably the smartest, most relevant one that we've done, and I'm going to talk to you about that.
Is that because you outsmart yourself sometimes or something?
No. I know a lawyer from many years ago that knew all the law there was, knew everything. Brilliant. But he couldn't function as a lawyer. He couldn't do anything. And I realized why. He wasn't ignorant. He knew enough to know he couldn't do it. He knew enough to know that you're not supposed to be doing this. He knew all the reasons why it wouldn't work. He knew all the downfalls, all the pitfalls. Therefore, he did nothing. That statement of Mark Twain's is true. The people that really succeed are the people that don't have enough sense to know they can't. I believe that. Because if anybody really analyzes going in and doing anything anymore, they're going to say, oh my goodness. But the ones that go forward and do it, they get it done. And it happens.
So that safety net, again, it comes back to fear. That safety net, well, I didn't fail because I didn't do it. But you're saying you didn't fail because you didn't do it, but you didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And the person who is bold, and how many times have you have told us, go forward, go forward, go forward.
When in doubt, go forward, my friends. Go forward. Okay, come back to the computer. I got a couple more of these little quotes I've got to share with you before we end the program. It takes 20 years to make an overnight success. Think of that.
Absolutely true.
Thomas Edison. The reason a lot of people do not recognize opportunity is because it usually goes around looking like hard work. So true, my friend. Plato. The first and best victory is to conquer yourself. How many times, my friends, have we talked about that? John Steinbeck, a sad soul can kill you far quicker than a germ. Okay, we're going to end on that one.
Hey, there's a lot of people that are human who had great things to say because they weren't afraid and they did great things.
That's
My
right.
friend, thank you.
Good.
Thank you all so much for tuning in to the program. It does mean a lot to Gary and me both. On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebolt. As always, we look forward to seeing you again next week right here on Simply the Law.
Thank you for watching Simply the Law, a program created by Gary C. Johnson. Until next week, may you be safe, blessed, and happy.